Hi, welcome to another episode of the Modern Human Podcast with Wendy
and Brenda. Hello, everyone.
Hi, guys. We're so excited for this new format because we really have been guided from Spirit to really share um, more content from the paintings that I channel because there's just so much there and so much kind of support that Spirit wants to give in these ways. So this week in particular, we're going to kind of talk about how with this new energy, it's really showing us the steps that we need to kind of take to ease into the new earth or into new aspects of ourselves. So it's kind of giving us the steps to do that.
Yeah, the expansion into an energy that allows us to surrender and flow more, right? And one of the messages that was clear to both of us was that it needs to be gentle and it needs to be something that we practice, because it would be hard for us to just shift like one 20-step jump, right? And so like honoring that we are going to have time and energy to just shift gently, slowly and surely into this new way of being, and really feeding this fire, which I like talking about fire, because fire is power, right? It's unpredictable. Like, I like that. It's uncomfortable sometimes and freeing sometimes and peaceful something, right? It has all of these nuances with it, and really allowing yourself to consider and explore, like, how do you feel about fire? Is that something you're afraid of? And then maybe what are you afraid of? Because of course we always need to be showing up for what arises in any of these experiences. But
because fire is a huge theme for the year of 2024. And it was an aspect of this month's painting with the breath of the dragon. But before, what you talked about really reminded me of something I learned from Abraham Hicks, like when she was channeling. Is it Abraham Hicks? Abraham. Is that?
Yeah.
Why I say Abram? I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to edit that out.
You don't have to. We must be real.
Abraham, and they were like, because of our psyche, there's like a delicateness to our being, meaning you could shift dramatically into a frequency where you're not right now. Like, that is possible. But the reason why most human beings don't do that, because our psyches would have such a problem with it, we'd actually probably choose to leave. Like, it would just be like, what is this? I don't even recognize this. It's not comfortable at all. And honestly, with some of these shifts that have been happening in the last several months, I've felt that way. Not that I want to leave, but more like I don't recognize anything around me.
Right.
And where's my footing and where's my channel to source? And like where I have to kind of reintegrate into who I am. And
right, the meaning making of that, and that experience with change. I think one of the things I said at the last meeting was, allowing yourself to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So shifting your relationship with change, meaning looking at it like it's unpredictable. And so like training or teaching your being to surrender to whatever is with joy and curiosity and love and light or peace, and be like, yeah, it is what it is. I'm just gonna like go along and whatever.
Right. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's unsafe, because that's typically what our psyches will do.
Right.
Be like, hey, we don't recognize it. We need to be afraid of it. And
Right.
that's just acting out of that animal part of our brain. So consciously looking at that. Curiosity is a perfect way. That's what I use. So obviously you can see this painting here, where the dragon is a huge piece. And dragons have been coming up obviously a lot lately.
A lot in the last year or so, right? Like,
yeah, like
slowly and surely, we saw like one like in 2022, and then we started seeing them like every other month, and now it's always
amen. That's all.
Yeah.
In some ways, I am painting. I painted a griffin in December.
That's true. I mean, that's so true.
But
so
you would think we're
different
totally into sci-fi fantasy, but it really is the energy that's coming in.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do represent something that's beyond human comprehension. So it's an energy frequency that's extremely high. And in that way, getting the brain outside of what it knows, because a dragon is a fantasy animal, right? Something that that doesn't exist in this dimension. So it trying to embody the symbolism of that, right? Like the symbolism of something outside of what we might know today.
And that's really the theme and will be our theme for years and years and years. It really is letting go of what you think you know and allowing yourself to ease into this newness, this expansion. I don't know if I love that word, this remembering. I like that word a little bit more. Remembering who you are, remembering what this is all about, remembering, the gifts of the earth and the nuances or frequencies that if you can open yourself to and feel and ease into, this is going to be the pathway, is this unknown, unseeable, untangible partly realm. And it is, I mean, I do feel like you can get in there, right? But you're going to get in there not necessarily through your thinking self, because that's the part of you that really needs the most time, the most patience.
The brain's the slowest part of our being.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So practicing in that and allowing yourself to enjoy the ride. I was telling Wendy a minute ago, one of the things that's coming up for me is a lot of anxiety, is noticing that, wow, I have this pool within me that is empty. It's very empty. So as things are arising, I don't have anything to pull on to discern and figure out. And that's okay. And so then giving myself the space and the time to slow down even more. And my psyche immediately is like, I'm sorry, what? We have to work. We have this. We have family. We have what? Blah, blah. And so basically letting my thinking self get in the back seat, because my heart, my body, my anxiety is already saying, hey, listen, too much. So honoring that.
And it leads right into this fire piece, because the fire, people are going to be inspired this month. There's going to be a lot of new energy around, not just this month, but throughout the year, like we talked about. And for you, there's a lot of preparation, a lot of energy happening around us. You might be feeling it within yourself. And, one of the messages in this painting was about, you might have this initial inspiration and these ideas, and you are going to continue to have these ideas because you are meant to kind of grow into who you're meant to be. Like, the purpose is a huge piece this year of really stepping onto your path. Especially if you're not really on your path, you're trying to figure that out. You're going to get a lot of help in that area. And so that inspiration is the fire, right? That creativity is that fire. And big theme of it is about, you got to keep fire stoked.
Right, because so think about that. It's like the
it.
spark of it. It's the spark. It lights it up. But then what are you doing to feed it? What action steps are you taking?
How are you
what
positioning the logs?
Exactly. So it needs air, right? Like thinking like, what do we need to fuel ourselves? We need all of these elements. We need time and space for me right now, right?
You have to have space. Otherwise if you cram logs together and you don't give it air and room to breathe, you'll shut it down, right? If you have too much air, right? You're too much in the air's the thinking space. You have too much air, it's going to go out.
Right. It's going to blow it out powerfully. Like, right. It'll die pretty quickly.
But you do need air to keep the fire going. So it's going to be this beautiful dance.
Right.
And you figuring out what that balance is for you. Intuitively within you if you're out of balance. But stoking the fire is this huge piece, because stoking that internal fire allows you to have and cultivate that breath of fire. If your fire is out within your tummy, right, then the dragon can't.
Which means that is your ability to manifest and create that aligns with your highest and greatest good. That's what that fire is. It's your ability to experience it, not just inside. And that's a part of it. And right now for this month, it really is about going within what is in alignment of you, and then feeding that with your thoughts, with your actions, with your feelings, with your experiences, choosing what feels good, choosing what feels loving, choosing what works for you best, not based on outside influences or pressures or belief systems. Know that you do have the time and the space to figure that out. There's no rush. There's no pressure. Like, that came through really strongly for me. Like, just listen, fumble your way through, right? No judgment. I talk about that a lot, but that's really important. We have a lot of help to help us figure out, what does balance mean to me? What does love mean to me? What does life mean to me? Who am I, right? Like answering some of these questions, going in with that. Like this to me, it's the beginning of the new year and it's winter many places on this planet. Going within, hunkering down, what's inside of me, right? We're kind of exposing that. And that to me is the perfect conversation around fire, because that's where fire, it's just raw and like messy and like raw. I don't know. I like it.
Well, it's like it's this perfect balance between life and death, really. And that's why it's so powerful. It can give
Yeah.
life and it can take it away. It can start. Yeah. It's deep, man.
It's very neat. And there's other pieces in this painting, which obviously we'll talk about in the weeks to come, that obviously incorporate that. But it's a really good beginning conversation, because I feel that this is one of those spaces that we consider and try on, and I would like to spend more time just being in. Like, it's uncomfortable, slowing down, showing up, feeding, maybe not feeding. Maybe we don't want our fire to be burning over here, right? So we shift it, or we move it, or we take away wood so that it stops burning, or we move the air, whatever.
No, it really is it's a profound thing, because it's about an experience of balance, and it is this dance, this almost like sacred dance, where it's like, it's doing everything with intention. So you want this thing, whatever it is, that you have all this energy behind it, right? You have all this fire energy, you're getting inspired. And then how do you maintain it and how do you take care of it? It's kind of like, you might want $1 million right now. You might want a job that produces $1 million, but it will take steps to get to that kind of level of productivity, right? So you got to start somewhere. So really trusting the process. And it's going to take that wisdom of the dragon, of really knowing, going within and knowing, where that balance might be for you. And so, that's partly why we start with this, because the spirit's like, you need to take care of yourself. And though you might be manifesting, let's say, $1 million of productivity, we need your body and your mind and your energy level just to get used to $100,000, right? If we're using math, right? And then we're going to get you used to 200,000 to see what that feels like. Because our physical beings are a little bit slower than maybe our hearts. Our hearts like are not even linear, right? It's more of a quantum space. So we can feel that $1 million now, but it's our bodies and our minds that needs that process, right? And how do you take care of yourself during that? Because it's going to take a little bit of fumbling to get used to, let's say, $100,000 or maybe 250,000, wherever you're at on your journey, whatever that symbolizes for you. It doesn't even need to be about money. It could be about just even
love, acceptance,
life and work balance.
Right.
And, and it's even that, though it could be about you having more downtime, that's just as uncomfortable for some.
Yes.
So you're like, hey, I'm being inspired to write more or read more.
She's totally calling me out right now. That's where I'm being guided to go.
Oh, really?
I need more downtime.
Must have channeled that. And so at first that's going to be uncomfortable, right? Because you're not even going to be used to that. You might be totally used to productivity, and that's an easier space. Right. But this downtime, right? So you're inspired to do this. So you're going to maybe write once a week. And then you get up to 2 days a week, and then you can get up to 3 days a week, where now it's this like natural balance and flow, where you can learn to trust it.
The same energy, the same frequency as any other form of abundance, whether it's a partnership or money. It's the same energy, the same unconditional love and acceptance and flow. And it is really important. You will immediately meet up with any parts of you that are not in alignment with that frequency. And that is a gift. That's where we invite you to spend time right now. Now, another piece, which I know we said we were not going to talk about this week, but I feel is purposeful in this moment, is the transparency piece, which is a key element of this painting for this month.
The dragon's transparent, so transparent.
Meaning that you cannot fake this. Like, you cannot say, I choose $1 million, or I choose acceptance or a partnership, or whatever your creating for yourself. You cannot choose that and then not look at the parts of you that are afraid of it or that don't think it's possible. Like you're going to have to go into that energy, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. Time does not exist. You're going to immediately pull to you the parts of you that are like, great, sure, but I don't know how to reconcile with that because I'm afraid. I'm uncertain. I don't love myself right here. Right? You're going to meet them. You're going to heal
Or
them.
you're just afraid that your dreams aren't going to happen, or
right.
You're inspired and you really want to do this idea, or you really want to do these things, and then you're like, is that even true? Is that even possible? Those are all, and that's going to be based on wherever you're at. Whatever shows up for you is going to be appropriate for you. So just recognizing that that's actually trying to help you get to that space of wherever you're going.
Right.
It's not a fork in the road, or it's not something bad happening. It's actually, it's just those live within you too. So just looking at that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately the breath of the dragon with the fire, is associated with the dragon's heart. Fire can also be associated with our heart space. And so breathing fire like the dragon is basically aligning all of our words and our thoughts, right, with whatever our heart is. So that transparency piece becomes really, that's our truth. So even though in not denying it, meaning like, no, I'm actually feeling within my being right now afraid, or hey, I'm really feeling excited. There's that there too, right? You don't have to always look at the darkness. We kind of go into that space a lot, partly because human beings don't really know how to navigate those negative emotions. Like they think that they're bad, and they're not. And that's partly why we focus so much on energy. Partly Brenda's the steerhead of that, but really is helpful because it's
one of the
necessary.
ways that we're out of balance, right?
Right.
It's just, we're gonna bring it back full circle, and we'll come back to all of that joy. They both exist together, and we like to talk about the joy and the peace and the happiness, and we're just now remembering that that part of that is the anger or the sadness that is there together. They both exist in the wholeness, the circle.
It's balance, and so then
Exactly.
you become stronger, more powerful when you can hold both.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're out of balance. And then somebody comes along that's poking your sadness, and they're like, "What? I didn't even know it was there." And then we're way out of balance because we didn't know that the sadness even existed. So we're just trying to like help with some of that, right? So it doesn't have to get so dramatic or crazy for you. So just kind of
But
noticing.
it's okay if it does, and that's just
true
part
too.
of the journey. And we're kind of in this back and forth until we come back full circle, and we got this.
Yeah, and so stoking your fire, what does that mean for you? What do you need to feel fed?
Yeah.
What do you need to keep your fire burning? And that's personal
What
to
is
you.
burning for you, in you, right? Like, what do you feel? What do you think? And some of us are in a place where we feel numb or scared. And so opening yourself in such a way where you acknowledge that and are open to what would you like to burn, because it truly is that simple. What would you like? What are you here for? Who are you? I just partly felt confident. Acknowledge that not everyone actually feels things burning up at this point in time.
Yeah, and it just feels like, what do you feel passionate about, right? And if you don't feel that way, it's about noticing, like she's saying, it's like really getting to know yourself. What might be pulling you away from that space, that feeling space. And then as you peel back some of those layers or burn them off, because this fire is about your passion, right? And in life, for sure, your life force.
It's healing. I mean, that's really the purpose of fire, is that it does help us heal.
Fire breath.
Yeah.
But it's also, it can be used in a tool way where it's burning away things. Guess I need to do something. Let some stuff go, burn some stuff.
Do you think that's what that's about? Do you think it's coming up because we're having
maybe.
this conversation?
Yeah, I feel like.
Well, that's neat.
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I haven't really coughed all day. I am talking a lot though.
Nothing wrong with that. It's interesting. right? So that's part of the conversation is like, what's going on within Wendy? Like, where did her thoughts go? Or why might her physical body be responding in such a way at such a moment? Everything to us has purpose and meaning, and being authentic about that.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we were talking about letting things go and letting things burn away. And so, and I have been personally, we're all moving through stuff, and I've been personally thinking about those things and letting some of those things go. And it is, I feel like if we're talking about our throats, it's just important to talk about, what kind of stories that are we telling. I read this beautiful thing yesterday that was about, using our voice. You're a storyteller, right? So in this way, are you the hero of your own story, And I didn't know, in some of my thoughts and my beliefs, I was not the hero of my story. In fact, I was very critical of myself, right? I was thinking, yeah, I wasn't doing this right. I wasn't doing that right. And so when I read this, it was like, no, are you shifting the perspective of your story to where you're the hero? Because you have the power to do that. And I feel like the throat chakra is all about that, right? So what kind of stories are you telling? And so in that way, it was very profound for me, because it was like, yeah, I didn't realize, because I just felt it was a truth. My being just felt like, no, this is truth. I must not be doing this well, right? If I'm not getting these expected results, like I'm wanting this and I'm doing all of these things and it's not happening. So I must be doing something wrong. Where I feel, in fact, it's just how I'm perceiving that the situation is actually off. Where it's just like, no, if I'm doing everything in my power, I'm amazing, and not to where we have to sugarcoat something or deny responsibility. I don't mean that, because I'm definitely taking responsibility. It's more like shifting the story around to, I guess I need to figure out what that story is, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in if I can and say, let's sugarcoat it, especially with the conversations that we have within ourselves, because I feel like so often most of us are so hard on ourselves, like all of
Yeah.
us maybe. And let's sugarcoat it, and let's take responsibility. Let's be accountable for what we do think, what we do feed, what we stoke in our fires. Let's be responsible and accountable for that. And let's sugarcoat it. Let's be more kind to ourselves. Let's be more loving. Let's be the hero and the savior of our own beings. Let's do that together, collectively, consciously, individually, intentfully, so that we can allow ourselves to move. And I'm looking over at the painting, but let's allow ourselves to expand into who we really are. And part of that journey is going to be shifting these stories to be our own heroes and
just being
ourselves.
The main character, noticing where in your thoughts or in your story of your life, where you're not even the main character, wherever or somebody else is. And so this idea was around, we're meant to be, for our own psyches, the center of the universe, right? Not in a narcissistic sense, but in a we're having this great I am experience, and we're meant to see it through our lens.
And that's where narcissism is healthy. Narcissism is only an issue if it's out of balance. We are meant to be narcissistic. We are meant to see the world and know ourselves through our own experiences, how we feel and what we think. So just jumping in on that.
Yeah.
I feel like that gets a bad rap a little bit.
It does. The definition of narcissism, it's like a spectrum. People way over the side. Usually it's balanced. You have healthy narcissism,
and you understand that others have their own experience as well, and your experience doesn't supersede theirs,
right?
And it's when people cannot see somebody else's perspective that it gets out of balance and creates harm and abuse.
And that's what all the narcissists, the stuff that you're seeing out there about narcissists, that's where they're at, meaning they can't really understand that somebody else is having a different experience. But even for them, they're just in a lot of pain, and they need to make it that much about them. So even for them, they need more compassion.
And they're going to figure it out. They truly are. Because this is the only game in town, and we're just going to keep showing up, and we're going to bring more love and more kindness and more compassion.
Yeah, it's good. So this week's focus, stoking your fire, letting things go that, shifting your story, letting things go that no longer serve you, especially if it's related to what you're saying, you're speaking.
being transparent, honest,
being
authentic,
transparent.
genuine about what all is inside of you. And you don't necessarily have to blurt it out yet. You can just show up for it. You can acknowledge it. You can think about it, feel into it.
And
Show up.
it's something that you have to continually feed, meaning even like a good relationship, right? You can't just like talk to them once in a healthy way and then it's done. Just like you got to keep stoking the
Right.
fire. You got to keep adding wood to it. You have to keep moving or poking it around. For those of you that don't know how to start a fire, don't know much about fires, these are all analogies about that.
I'm trying to think of when's the last time I actually did. I guess
Stove.
you do fire
I
all the
do
time.
fires all the
You have
time.
fire
Our fireplace,
yeah. So that's very cool. But it's very true. Like we have to feed things if we want them to grow. Anything, whether it's a life purpose or our own selves or a relationship, we have to feed them.
And having that be heart centered. All right, so we'll have more next week. Hopefully, stay tuned and let us know your thoughts. What are your thoughts around this part of the thing?
Thank you so much.
See you next time.
Bye.
You can collect a card of each painting I create each month by joining our Quantum Power Deck subscription. It's only $30 a month. You get a card in the mail along with a little nice channeled message from Spirit, and you also get to attend our Messages from the Universe every month virtually for free.